Clara Hayes wiped sweat from her forehead as she walked down the hallway. It was only 7 in the morning, but the nursery felt like an oven. The heater was broken again, for the 3rd time this month. "Why is it so hot in here?" she whispered to herself. Clara pushed open the door to the baby room. Inside, 6 cribs stood in 2 neat rows. The windows had cracks in them, tape covers in the cracks, but cold air still snuck through. Yet somehow the room felt warm, too warm. Clara looked at the babies. Most of them were sleeping. Little Emma sucked her thumb. Baby Marcus had kicked off his blanket. Lily's tiny chest moved up and down as she breathed. Everything seemed normal, but something felt wrong. Clara couldn't explain it. It was like that feeling you get when someone is watching you, or when you know a storm is coming even though the sky is still blue. Her stomach felt tight. Her hands felt cold even though the room was hot. She walked between the cribs, checking each baby. Emma was fine. Marcus was fine. Lily was fine. Then she heard it, a cry, but not a normal baby cry. This cry was different. It sounded scared, really, really scared. Clara's heart started beating faster. She looked around the room. Which baby was crying? She counted the cribs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But wait, there were only supposed to be 5 babies today. Little Liam had gone home yesterday with his parents. So why was someone in Liam's crib? Clara walked slowly toward the crib in the corner, the one that should be empty. Her shoes made soft sounds on the floor. Step, step, step. The crying stopped. Now the room was completely quiet. Too quiet. Clara couldn't even hear the babies breathing anymore. It was like the whole world was holding its breath. She reached the crib. Her hand touched the wooden rail. It felt smooth and cold. Clara stood on her tiptoes and looked inside. At first, she didn't understand what she was seeing. Her brain couldn't make sense of it. There were coils. Thick, muscular coils covered in brown and yellow patterns. They filled the whole crib, winding around and around like a rope. But it wasn't a rope. It was alive. Clara's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Her legs felt like jelly. Her hands started shaking so hard she had to grip the crib rail to stand up. A snake, a giant snake, right there in the crib. The creature was as thick as Clara's leg, maybe thicker. Its body filled every inch of the crib, coiled so many times Clara couldn't see where it started or ended. The scales gleamed in the morning light, coming through the cracked window, and then Clara saw the head. It was resting on the top rail of the crib, just inches from where her hand had been a moment ago. The head was huge, shaped like a triangle, with a mouth that could easily fit around. Clara felt sick. She couldn't finish that thought. The python's eyes were open. They were watching her. Cold eyes. Dark eyes. Eyes that showed no feeling at all. Clara wanted to scream. She wanted to run. But she couldn't move. It was like her feet were glued to the floor. Her whole body had turned to stone. How did this happen? How did a giant python get into the nursery? Where did it come from? And then a much worse thought hit her like a punch in the stomach. The babies. Clara slowly turned her head, afraid to make any sudden movements. She counted the cribs again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 cribs. The snake was in one. That left 5 cribs. 5 cribs with 5 babies. But the nursery had 3 babies on the same wall as the snake. Emma was in the next crib over, only 3 feet away. Marcus was 2 cribs down, and little Lily was at the end. 3 babies, 1 giant snake. And Clara was the only adult in the room. Where was everyone else? Where was Sandra, the other teacher? Where was Mr. Patterson, the director? The nursery was supposed to have 3 staff members in the morning, but budget cuts had reduced them to just 2. And today, Sandra had called in sick. It was just Clara, alone, with 5 babies and a monster. Clara's mind raced. What should she do? If she screamed, the snake might attack. If she ran to get help, the babies would be alone with it. If she tried to grab the babies, the python shifted slightly. Its body moved like a wave, the coils tightening and then loosening. The head lifted from the rail just an inch. The tongue flicked out. Once, twice, tasting the air, tasting for prey. Clara realized something that made her blood turn cold. The snake wasn't just resting in the crib. It was hunting. It had come through the vents. The vents that no one had repaired even though Clara had complained about them for months. The vents that connected to the old warehouse next door. The warehouse that had been raided by police last week. She had seen it on the news. Illegal animals. Smuggled creatures from other countries. The police had found some of them, but others had escaped into the neighborhood. And now one of them was here, in the nursery, 3 feet from baby Emma. Clara had to do something. She had to do it now. But what? Her hands were still shaking. Her legs felt weak. She had never been so scared in her entire life. The python's tongue flicked out again, and baby Emma started to wake up. Emma's little hand reached up toward her face. She was waking up. In just seconds, she would cry, and when she cried, the snake would know exactly where she was. Clara had to move. Now, she forced her frozen legs to work. 1 step, then another. She moved as quietly as a mouse, barely breathing. Her eyes stayed locked on the python's head. It was still resting on the crib rail, but the tongue kept flicking. In and out, in and out. Clara reached Emma's crib. Her hands gripped the rail, so hard her knuckles turned white. Emma's eyes were opening. Her mouth started to form that shape babies make right before they cry. S-H-H-H-H, Clara whispered, soft in the breeze. S-H-H-H-H, baby girl. She reached down and slowly, so slowly, slid her hands under Emma's warm little body. The baby weighed almost nothing, but Clara's arms felt like they were lifting a mountain. Her muscles trembled. Sweat dripped down her back. Emma looked up at Clara with big, confused eyes. Her mouth opened wider. Please don't cry, Clara begged silently. Please, please, please don't cry. She lifted Emma out of the crib. The baby's blanket caught on the rail. Clara's heart nearly exploded in her chest, but she carefully freed it. Then she turned around, moving like she was walking through deep water. The python's head turned. Just a little. Just enough to follow the movement. Clara felt its eyes on her back as she walked to the door. Each step took forever. Her legs shook. Her arms ached from holding Emma so carefully. 10 steps to the door. 9 steps. 8 steps. Behind her, she heard a sound. A soft sliding sound. The snake was moving. 7 steps. 6 steps. Clara wanted to run. Every part of her body screamed at her to run. But she knew if she ran, the snake might chase. Snakes can move fast. Really fast. Especially big ones. 5 steps. 4 steps. Emma made a small sound. Not quite a cry. Just a little noise. The sliding sound got louder. 3 steps. 2 steps. 1 step. Clara reached the door and stepped through. She practically threw Emma into the hallway and slammed the door shut behind her. Her whole body was shaking now. She could barely stand. But there was no time to rest. Marcus and Lily were still inside, still in danger. Clara looked down at Emma, lying on the hallway floor on her blanket. The baby looked confused, but okay. Clara had to go back in. She had to save the others. She took 3 deep breaths. In and out, in and out, in and out. Then she opened the door again. The snake had moved. It was no longer in the crib. Clara's heart stopped. Where was it? Her eyes searched the room frantically. There, on the floor, sliding slowly toward Marcus's crib. The python moved like flowing water, its massive body creating an S shape as it traveled across the room. It was even bigger than Clara had thought. At least 12 feet long. Maybe 15. Marcus was awake now. He was looking at his mobile, the little colorful shapes that hung above his crib. He had no idea a monster was coming toward him. Clara moved fast this time. She ran to Marcus's crib and grabbed him. The baby let out a surprised yelp. The sound echoed in the quiet room. The python's head snapped toward them. Its mouth opened slightly. Clara could see inside. Row after row of backward curving teeth. A throat that could stretch wide enough to swallow. She didn't wait to see more. Clara ran for the door, clutching Marcus to her chest. Behind her, she heard that sliding sound getting faster. The snake was coming after her. Clara's foot caught on something. She stumbled, almost fell, but caught herself on a chair. Marcus cried out. Clara kept running. The door was so close. Just a few more feet. She burst through the doorway and slammed the door behind her. Something hit the door from the other side. Hard. The whole door shook in its frame. Clara fell to her knees, breathing so hard she thought her lungs might burst. Marcus was crying now, loud and scared. Emma started crying too. Their cries filled the hallway. But Clara couldn't rest yet. Lily was still inside. One more baby. One more trip into the room with the monster. Clara set Marcus down next to Emma. Then she stood up, even though her legs felt like rubber bands. Her hands were shaking so badly she could hardly grip the door handle. She opened the door, just a crack, and peeked inside. The snake was right there, right by the door. Its head was raised off the ground, level with Clara's waist. The tongue flicked out, nearly touching the door frame. The eyes stared at her. Cold, hungry, patient. Clara's throat felt tight. How could she get past it? Lily's crib was on the far side of the room. Clara would have to walk right past the snake to reach her. But Lily was in there alone. A helpless baby with a giant python in the room. Clara couldn't leave her. She just couldn't. Clara looked around for something. Anything that might help. Her eyes landed on a broom, leaning against the wall in the hallway. She grabbed it. She opened the door wider and stepped inside, holding the broom like a sword. The python watched her, its body coiled tighter, muscles rippling under the scales. "Stay back," Clara said, though she knew the snake couldn't understand her. "Just stay back." She moved sideways along the wall, keeping the broom between herself and the snake. The python's head followed her movement. It slithered forward, just a little, testing. Clara jabbed the broom toward it. "No, get back." The snake stopped. Its tongue flicked out, tasting the broom bristles. Then it pulled back slightly. Clara kept moving. Slow, careful steps along the wall. The snake matched her movements, sliding parallel to her. They moved together like dancers, each watching the other. Finally, Clara reached Lily's crib. The baby was awake, staring at the ceiling, completely calm. She had no idea what was happening. Clara kept one hand on the broom and reached into the crib with the other. Her fingers touched Lily's soft blanket. She started to lift the baby. The python struck. Not at Clara, but at the broom. Its head shot forward like lightning, faster than Clara could see. The mouth opened wide. Teeth caught the broom bristles. The snake pulled. Clara held on tight. She and the snake played tug-of-war with the broom for just a second. Then Clara let go. The snake fell backward, the broom in its mouth. Clara grabbed Lily with both hands and ran. She ran faster than she had ever run in her life. The python dropped the broom and came after her. She could hear behind her, sliding so fast it sounded like a sheet being pulled across the floor. Clara hit the door with her shoulder, smashing it open. She dove into the hallway and kicked the door shut behind her. The snake hit the door again, harder this time. The wood cracked. Clara scrambled backward, pulling all 3 babies with her. They were all crying now. Their cries mixed together into one long wail. But they were safe, all 3 of them, safe in the hallway while the monster stayed locked in the nursery. Clara pulled out her phone with shaking hands and dialed 911. "Help," she gasped into the phone. "Please help. There's a giant snake in the nursery. It almost... She couldn't finish the sentence. She just held the 3 crying babies and waited for help to come. The sirens came fast. Clara heard them growing louder and louder until they were right outside. Red and blue lights flashed through the hallway windows. Heavy footsteps pounded up the stairs. Firefighters in big yellow suits burst through the main door. Behind them came 2 people in green uniforms, animal control officers. One of them carried a long pole with a loop on the end. The other had a huge cage. "Where is it?" the first firefighter asked. Clara pointed at the nursery door with a shaking hand. "In there. It's huge. It tried to attack me." One of the animal control officers peeked through the door's window. His face went pale. That's a reticulated python, probably 15 feet long. Someone's illegal pet. Can you get it out? Clara asked, holding the 3 babies close. Yes, ma'am, but everyone needs to stay back. The firefighters made Clara and the babies move down the hallway, far from the door. Then the animal control officers went inside. Clara couldn't see what was happening, but she heard lots of noise. Banging, scraping. Someone shouted, "Hold it! Hold it!" After what felt like forever, the officers came out carrying the huge cage. Inside, the python was coiled tight, its body pressed against the bars. Even trapped, it looked terrifying. Got it, one officer said, breathing hard. This snake was probably starving. That's why it came looking for food. Clara felt sick. Food. He meant the babies. The snake had been hunting her babies. Just then, more footsteps thundered up the stairs. Parents. Lots of parents. They must have gotten an emergency call from the main office. "Where's my baby?" a woman screamed. "Where's Emma?" "Marcus." "Where's Marcus?" a man shouted. The hallway filled with panicked parents. Clara tried to explain what had happened, but everyone was yelling at once. Emma's mother grabbed her daughter and burst into tears. Marcus's father held his son so tight the baby started crying again. Lily's parents arrived last, and when they saw their daughter safe, they both dropped to their knees and sobbed. Then the yelling started. Not happy yelling, angry yelling. "How did a snake get in here?" Emma's mother demanded. "What kind of place are you running?" "My son could have died." Marcus's father shouted. Where was the security? Where were the inspections? Clara stood there, not knowing what to say. She hadn't been in charge. She was just a teacher. She had done her best, but the parents weren't finished. More families arrived. Parents whose babies hadn't even been in the nursery today. Word had spread fast. Soon there were 20 people in the hallway, all shouting questions. This place is a disaster. The windows are cracked. The vents haven't been cleaned in months. We pay good money for our children to be safe here. Then Mr. Patterson arrived. The director. He was a thin man with glasses and a tired face. He looked around at all the angry parents and turned even more pale than Clara had when she saw the snake. "Everyone, please calm down," he said, holding up his hands. "This was an unfortunate accident. We couldn't have predicted." "Accident?" Emma's mother interrupted. "Clara told me she's been complaining about those broken vents for 3 months. You ignored her." "And the staffing," another parent added. "There's supposed to be 3 teachers in the morning. Clara was alone. 1 person with 6 babies." "Budget cuts," Mr. Patterson mumbled. "We had to make difficult choices." "Difficult choices?" Marcus's father stepped forward, his face red with anger. "You chose money over our children's safety. That's not a difficult choice. That's wrong." Clara watched Mr. Patterson try to defend himself, but he had no good answers. The truth was simple. He had known about the broken vents. He had known about the staffing problems. He had known the old warehouse next door was dangerous, but he had done nothing because fixing things cost money. And now 3 babies had almost died. The police arrived next. They asked Clara a lot of questions. She told them everything about the broken vents, about the warehouse raid she'd seen on the news last week, about complaining to Mr. Patterson and being told there was no money in the budget. The police officers wrote everything down. One of them shook his head. That warehouse was full of illegal animals. Snakes, lizards, even a crocodile. We caught most of them, but several escaped. We sent warnings to all the buildings in the area. Did you receive a warning?" Mr. Patterson's face went from pale to red. I might have. I don't remember." "You don't remember?" Emma's mother's voice was ice cold. "You don't remember a warning about dangerous animals?" That's when Clara knew Mr. Patterson's time as director was over. You could see it in everyone's faces. Trust, once broken, is hard to fix. And Mr. Patterson had broken everyone's trust. The police said they would investigate. The parents said they would file complaints. And Mr. Patterson just stood there, looking small and defeated. But Clara wasn't thinking about Mr. Patterson. She was looking at the 3 babies she had saved. Emma was asleep in her mother's arms. Marcus was drinking a bottle. Lily was giggling, completely unaware of how close she had come to danger. Clara had saved them. When it mattered most, she hadn't run away. She hadn't frozen in fear. She had walked into that room 3 times, facing the monster, and brought each baby to safety. Emma's mother walked over to Clara. Tears were streaming down her face. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for saving my baby. You're a hero." Clara shook her head. "I just did what anyone would." "No." The mother grabbed Clara's hands. "Not anyone. You. You saved 3 lives today. I'll never forget that. Never." One by one, the other parents came to thank Clara. They hugged her. They cried. They told her she was brave and wonderful and amazing. Clara didn't feel brave. She felt tired and scared and shaky. But she also felt something else. Something warm in her chest. She had protected her babies. That's what teachers do. They protect. The nursery closed that day. Inspectors came and found dozens of problems. Broken vents, cracked windows, old wiring, things that should have been fixed months ago but weren't. The repairs took 3 weeks. New vents were installed, ones with screens so nothing crawled through. Every window was replaced. More teachers were hired so no one would ever be alone with too many babies again. And Mr. Patterson? He was fired. A new director took his place, one who promised to always put safety first. When the nursery reopened, Clara was there on the first day. She walked into the baby room, the same room where the python had been. But it looked completely different now. Everything was clean and new and safe. The 3 babies she had saved were there too. Emma, Marcus, and Lily. When they saw Clara, all 3 reached out their little arms toward her. They didn't remember what had happened. They were too young. But somehow they knew Clara was the person who had saved them. Clara picked up Emma and held her close. She looked at the new vents, the strong windows, the extra teachers now working beside her. She thought about that terrible morning and the monster in the crib. "Never again," she whispered, kissing Emma's head. "Not on my watch. Never again." And she meant it, because that's what heroes do. They protect, they fight, and they never, ever give up. What did you think of Clara's story? This really happened, and it shows us that sometimes the bravest people are the ones who show up to work every day, caring for others. If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who needs to hear about courage and never giving up. And don't forget to subscribe for more true stories about everyday heroes who make extraordinary choices when it matters most. What would you have done in Clara's situation? Leave your thoughts in the comments below.